Hello, everyone, and welcome to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. I am your host, Kevin Reed, and welcome everyone to the review of the season finale, season 2 finale of Daredevil Born Again, which is currently on Disney Plus and brought to us by the good folks over at Marvel Studios. This is the 8th and final episode entitled The Southern Cross, and I must say right off the bat that I thoroughly enjoyed season 2 of Daredevil Born Again. It is leaps and bounds better than season 1. Season 1 was all right. Season 1 was like the tale of two stories, two halves. The first half of Daredevil season 1, Born Again season 1, was it was the slowest of slow burns. We didn't get any Daredevil action for those first, I think, 3 or 4 episodes, and it started to kind of pick up towards the end. And if you know the backstory, they switched showrunners mid production, and the new writers came in who are over this particular season, and they changed up some things. They added some things to the front half to kind of flush out the story in the second half of that first season to make the season watchable, which it was. It saved that season because it was boring starting off, and I think collectively a lot of people felt it was decent but not great. It wasn't the greatest of things. And going into season 2, I was a little hopeful because I looked at season 1 as a kind of reintroduction to this character that we've if you're not familiar with the comics, you're probably familiar with the Netflix series. So it kind of threw us back into that world. Still had the same vibe as the Netflix series with the violence and the blood and the language. All that was still there, and that I appreciated, being as though it was on Disney Plus of all places. But season 2, oh man, I don't think there was a bad episode this season. Out of the 8 episodes, none of them were bad. Now, there were some that were better than others, some not as great, but it was still good. I enjoyed all 8 episodes, which leads us to the season finale. The season finale wasn't the greatest of season finales, in my humble opinion, but I did enjoy the season finale of Daredevil Born Again. We pick up right after episode 7. We see Matt recovering from that gunshot wound to the leg. Jessica Jones is I guess stitching him up, stapling him up, bandaging him up, and asked him, what are you prepared to do? Can you stop Fisk? And he's like, well, no, I can't, not by myself. I can't do it alone. And he devised a plan, and we didn't know what the plan was at that particular moment. The trial is going on with Karen Page on trial as a vigilante. McDuffie is trying to get in contact with Matt, but Matt is, getting bandaged up from his encounter just the previous day, protecting her from that hit from the task force. And it is not looking too promising for dear old Karen Page in that courtroom. We see Kingpin in his office. Buck walks in, and Kingpin asks Buck, did Daniel deliver BB? And this was one of the best acting moments in this episode and probably the whole show. I'm not saying it's the greatest acting moment, but I don't know what it was about this moment that kind of got me. I just love when people emote, when you can get emotion, get a statement across without uttering one single word. And when Kingpin asked Buck about Daniel, did Daniel deliver? And Buck just said no. And it was that awkward silence for a couple of seconds, and Wilson Fisk just turns to Buck, and Buck gives that look, like it was it was so heartbreaking. I actually felt bad for Buck, even though I want to kill him, because he killed Daniel. Daniel went out like a soldier, but it was so heartbreaking. And Kingpin just knew. He looked at him. He didn't say ask him what happened. He didn't say, well, did you take care of him or what was going? He just knew. At that moment, he just knew, and it was just displayed in the looks. And Vincent D'Onofrio and the actor who portrays Buck here did a fantastic job of conveying that without speaking. It was just heartbreaking. It was a heartbreaking moment. One of the best moments in this episode, and that's saying something because it was a lot of action in this episode towards the end. But I just enjoyed that so much. He gives him an assignment. Wilson Fisk, that is, gives Buck an assignment. We don't know what that particular assignment is, because Buck asks him, "Are you sure about this?" Because right before that, Wilson Fisk is telling him that everybody thinks I'm emotional because I'm grieving right now, with the death of Vanessa and whatnot, and so his decision making may be scoured. And so he asks him, "Is he sure?" And once again, conveying without speaking, he just looks at Buck, and Buck like, "No problem, I'll take care of it." Consider it done. It was cool there as well. And so I want to mention, because I read this one day after episode 7 premiered, probably over the weekend, but either way, Daniel wasn't supposed to die initially. His character was supposed to survive, but they did an interview with Michael Gandolfini about, he didn't know. He didn't know. It was initially supposed to be Buck was supposed to let him go because they had grown a connection. It was a thing. He didn't want to kill him. And of course, they showed it with, I think it was more powerful they did it this way, but he did not know. And so they added all that in post. They added the little gunshot flare in the blood on the ground when Buck killed him. And that was the shock to him and everybody else, because watching that episode, I didn't know. I thought they was going to let Daniel go because I thought he was set up for more with Kingpin and whatnot. But I thought that was very interesting to read. But it is fact, because Michael Gandolfini, I saw the interview. He was like, "Oh, I didn't know they was going to do that." But the writers came back and said, they were like, "Well, it's really nowhere this character can go from here." And when you think about it, it really wasn't. It was a heroic thing for him to go out in that way. The kind of, I can't, for lack of a better term, atone for following Kingpin, for being his puppet, and all the other dirty stuff, hiding the body with Buck and all this other stuff. It was a nice turn. I didn't 100% agree with how it played out. That's how I knew it was kind of funky. So when when he said that in that interview, it made sense the way it played out on that episode. But it really did help the story move forward. With the loss of Daniel, we'll see in season 3 how that death will affect BB and not so much Kingpin, because it looks like they're moving on from that. But before we get getting ahead of myself there, but I just wanted to drop that nugget. Anywho's, back at the trial, we have McDuffie. She is questioning Heather on the witness stand, and Heather, well, first the district attorney was questioning her, and she was saying that Karen Page is a psychopath, and just laying out this profile. And the more she laid it out, she really was talking about herself. That's what made that such an interesting testimony that she was giving on the witness stand. And so as she's giving her testimony, Matt Murdock, he limps in. Uh, he limps into the courtroom, which was very, very tense, very awkward, because let's not forget, in season one, they were a couple. They were an item. And you have the witness on the witness stand being his ex-girlfriend. He's sitting at this he's sitting at the desk with his current flame, defending her in this trial. It is about as awkward can get. And so he begins to question her as well, kind of throws her off. The one knock I have about this, it didn't really pop the way I wanted it to, because there's history there with these characters, with these two individuals, and we really didn't dive deep into it. Now, granted, it wasn't the moment for all that, I guess you could say, probably would have killed the momentum of the episode, but at this point in the episode, you really could have dove in a little bit more. I'm not saying have a 10-minute scene with those two going back and forth. Oh, you said you love me and all this other foolishness. No, it just have a tense little standoff between the two, some banter going back and forth. But there were a couple of shots thrown by Matt at her that kind of made her look foolish on the stand. Then we get to the big one when Wilson Fisk is called to the stand by Matt Murdock. And so, Kingpin, he walks in big as ever. Well, not as ever, but it's funny. Is it me? Is it me or am I tripping? But he's bigger towards the end of the episode, end of this season than he was at the beginning of the season. He was slim in the beginning. I know Vincent D'Onofrio, he had lost some weight and whatnot, and they kind of put him in a fat suit, it looks like, for a couple of scenes, but now he looks a little bigger, and he kind of fits. He looked like Kingpin. Early on, he didn't really look, he looked like a slim. Actually, they made I think Matt made a comment to him about that. I could be thinking of season one. I could be getting missed. Either way it go, he put the weight back on. He looks like Kingpin as he walked into this courtroom. It could be the suit that he was wearing. They dressed him up to make him look bigger, and that helped, especially when he goes full Kingpin a little later on in this episode. He needed to look like Kingpin. You couldn't have a slimmed down Wilson Fisk doing what he did to all of those people at the end of this episode. But anywho's, he takes the stand. Meanwhile, we have the task force who are setting up this sniper position across from the courtroom, and you have one of the task force members wearing a replica bullseye. Well, it's not replica because the real bullseye doesn't wear this, but in the comics, he was wearing the actual bullseye little get up, which was cool. I was like, oh man, is that bullseye? Why is he working with the task force now? Why they're not attacking him or trying to kill him or something? But he was a fall guy or whatever to kind of frame bullseye. To when Matt Murdock comes out, he was going to shoot him or whatever. So, to nobody's surprise, we get the real bullseye showing up and taking out the task force members that was in that building, fresh off of saving the governor of New York. He takes them out, takes out the replica poser, as he called him. It all with knives, man. I mean, Bullseye was a beast this season. I think he is the MVP of this season, no doubt. Bullseye was true, full Bullseye from the comics this season. So he positions himself at the sniper position, preparing for whoever to come out of that courtroom. And so we get a brief little sidebar in the judge chambers where the council comes in. You have the district attorney, you have Matt Murdock, and you have McDuffie, and they're trying to present this evidence of the crewman who was on the Northern Star, that ship, that recorded testimony that BB got from Paige or vice versa. I forgot how it went at this particular moment, but they got it. and they want to present it in the courtroom to kind of stick it to Wilson Fisk. And in another cool scene, I love that they threw this in here. When Matt was in the judges' chambers with the other counsel and the judges, Wilson Fisk is still sitting in the witness stand, and he's talking, whispering, because he knows Matt can hear him. So he talks at like a frequency that only Matt can hear, and Matt hears him, and he's telling Matt that you're a fool, that if you keep this up, I know all your secrets. I will expose you and all this other foolishness, because he knows that Matt Murdock is Daredevil, and this would be the perfect spot to expose him. And so this doesn't faze Matt at this point. And so immediately my mind went to, okay, we're about to get a Tony Stark moment here. We're about to get a I'm Iron Man moment in this season. And it showed up, it came a few scenes later. But we get to back in the courtroom. They play the video. The guy confesses. We all know that is the man that was murdered and Daniel and Buck buried upstate. And so he's not going to show up in the courtroom. So the district attorney is like, well, the video don't mean nothing. Where's the guy? Where is he to bless this recording? How we know this is real or fake or whatever? So at this point, Matt, he's tearing into Wilson Fisk, and and this is what makes this show great. Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio are amazing actors, and to see them, because they've been playing these characters for so long, they've been worked together for so long, they know how to bounce off of one another, and they really gave it in this scene. On trial, sitting across from each other. Well, Wilson was sitting, Matt was standing, and they're going back and forth. And Wilson is like a stone's throw away from uttering the words, "You're a Daredevil." Because up to this point in the video, the crewman says that there was someone else on that ship. It wasn't Daredevil that sunk the ship, but he was there to expose the weapons that was on the ship. So Daredevil is the only other living witness that they know that was on that ship. And so so Matt is drilling Wilson. He's like, yeah, Daredevil's a witness. Daredevil knows. And you know that Daredevil is in this courtroom right now. It was, bruh, I literally stood up in my chair. And I knew it was coming, but it was still like a very tense scene. The way they played it out, the way they acted it out, excellent. And we get our Iron Man moment. And Matt confesses, I'm Iron Man. I am Daredevil. And the court gasps, of course, and he displays that he's there. Everybody's like, you're blind. You're a blind lawyer. There's no way you're a Daredevil. And he takes his walking cane that we know he can transition into a weapon. He bounces it off the wall, ricochets it, and catches it. Just like Daredevil. And everybody's like, oh, he is. He is Daredevil. And at that point, he just exposes all of Wilson Fisk. He takes all of Wilson Fisk's defense, leverage, blackmail, whatever it is he could have used, it was gone just like that. And he had him. He got him. With all that, the judges went with Matt Murdock's defense. Karen Page was declared not guilty. The trial was dismissed, and Wilson Fisk sat there in defeat. It was awesome. And so after all that, they're about to leave the courtroom. We have a nice little standoff in the little lobby there, and Matt hears the gun cock from across the street. And just then, the shot rings out. Buck stands in front of Wilson Fisk, and he takes the bullet for him right in the gut. And so that's the second person to take a bullet for Wilson Fisk. Matt did it in season 1. Now Buck did it in season 2. Uh, this causes the courtroom to get locked down. The task force has locked everything down. Uh, but they're locked in there with each other. Everybody's locked in there with each other. And I was like, man, this is an interesting this is an interesting setup here. It very unique and very smart the way they did it. I gotta commend them for that. Uh all of our main players are in this courtroom. You have Matt, you have Kingpin, you have Karen, Jessica Jones is there because she walked in a little earlier with the governor. She's in there. Buck is there still trying to recover from his wound. Heather is in there. The district attorney is in there. I mean, the part of the task force is there. All of our main players got trapped in here because of that gunshot. And so now the crowds are riled up. Wilson Fisk, he has his little Donald Trump, I'm going to fight with you, fight like hell moment, for the insurrection. And this riles everybody up. And so now everybody's riled up. They're about to storm the courtroom. Cole, I believe his name. Cole is one of the task force members. He's the one that was injured at the end of season 1, who we thought was dead, being caught in that explosion. But he's there. Now he's questioning Powell. He's like, wait, because the White Tiger showed up. The little girl, she shows up, and she's like, you killed my uncle, and the wife is behind her like, yes, you murdered my uncle. And Cole, he turns to Powell. He's like, you said he was a cop killer, and Powell is like, shoot him. I told you to shoot these people. And Cole is like, no, I'm not shooting them. You lied to me. And so Powell is like, well, I'm gonna shoot him myself. And Cole knocks him out and allows all of the crowd to storm inside of the courtroom to go after Wilson Fisk. And so seeing it all coming down, Heather, she clicks. She goes full. I guess she's going to be Lady Muse now, who's in the comics, but it's not Heather in the comics, if I'm not mistaken. It's somebody else, but it's fine the way they set it up. I'm just glad they're doing something with that character. I made it known. Didn't like Heather in season 1. Thought that was the most wasted character in the season, but completely redeemed in season 2. Loved her character. Love where they're going with her character. She punches the district attorney in the throat because she's trying to nurse Buck back to health. Wilson Fisk, he's rejecting the attorney general's offer, which will allow Fisk to go in exile. We're gonna expunge all the stuff you did. Just leave New York. You can no longer be here. Just go. Resign from office and go. He's rejecting that because we all know Kingpin loves the city. He loves New York. And Matt, just to jump ahead a little bit, Matt and Kingpin have that discussion at the very end in their very last encounter. He's like, look, we both love New York. We just going about this a different way. And that's basically what they both love the city. One just loved them to the point he wants to rule them, and the other wants to defend them. And that's the dynamic between the two. And so he rejects that offer. He's like, nah, I'm not leaving. No, it's not happening. So he's walking out of the courtroom. He went full Kingpin. This was I died laughing. When he opened that door and all the protesters are beating it in, and he's like, open the door, and he just slings it open, and just one of the people, and they all dressed up in their little Daredevil costumes, which made it even worse. And he just looks at him and says, boo, and punches the dude across the hall. He starts smashing people against the wall. You see blood splattering all over the place, all over him in his white suit. He's just tearing these protesters apart with his bare hands. It was brutal, bruh. One he picked up and just broke him in half on the corner of the hall on the wall. Man, that was he just went full savage on these people. Meanwhile, you got Matt and Jessica Jones. They're fighting their way through the hallway. Cool little fight scene for them. They're joined by Angela Del Toro. That's the little girl, the white tiger. And we finally get to see the full display of her powers as she starts taking out some of this task force, beating them half to death. And finally, we get the two converging on each other with Wilson Fisk standing on the balcony after just slaughtering protesters. And you have Matt and everybody else with the protesters standing in the lobby. And Kingpin is just telling them, like, you don't understand. I love this city. I don't know how much I love this city. And they not want to hear it. And so they all start rushing. Matt's trying to stop them because he knows what's going to happen. It showed up as they're rushing in on both sides. He's still handling them. Yeah, I mean, he is tearing them up. But, the numbers game finally got overwhelmed him, I should say, and just started beating Wilson Fisk. And Matt stops him and holds them off. And that's when they have their little heart-to-heart where he begs Wilson Fisk to accept the deal. Finally, he does accept the deal. And so that's where we leave off at that point. And we cut to the final stretch of this episode and season. We see that the city is quiet. They show shots of the city as kind of mellow down now. We see Karen and Matt. They're having dinner at this restaurant that Karen was daydreaming about at the beginning of this episode. This time it was for real. It seemed like we're getting our happy ending. But, of course, this is Daredevil. And the police sirens approach. Matt gets arrested, for being Daredevil. And everything he's done that has been, should I say, less than legal, including attempted murder and whatnot, assault. Yeah, he's going to have to pay the piper for that. And so he gets apprehended and arrested. We see BB. She went full circle. She is welcomed at her uncle's old job in his old office, nonetheless, at the New York Bulletin, and goes through an old shoebox that he had that kept all of his old articles. Nice little touching moment. Another touching moment, we see that she has a picture of her and Daniel on her desk. A single tear rolled down my cheek. I'm like, oh, that's sweet. But what really made me cry, I'm not ashamed to say it because I knew it because it was spoiled by the actor nonetheless months ago, but it still hit me, to finally see it. We get we flash over to Jessica Jones. She's in her office at Alias Investigations, and she's playing with her daughter, and all of a sudden a man walks in, and we just see the back of him, and she stands up and looks in shock, and the daughter sits up and looks in shock, and she just runs to him and says, "Daddy." And then he comes into focus, into frame, and we see that it's none other than Michael Coulter, Luke Cage, man. I'm telling you, it just, I don't know. Saying that, I got goosebumps on my arms. I never thought that we would get that return. Jessica Jones, I could see her returning. That wasn't a big shock to me, even though we all knew that she was going to be in this season and whatnot. I didn't think there was a chance that we would get Luke Cage again. I really didn't. And not only Luke Cage, but Michael Coulter. And I did not think that was possible. And there it is. And didn't do nothing. We didn't see him go Luke Cage. We didn't hear him talk about he wants some coffee. We didn't get none of that. But it was just nice to see him back. And it is confirmed that he is going to be in season 3. Not only him, but they spoiled it. And if you don't want to be spoiled, who's going to be in season 3, this is your time to kind of skip ahead a couple of seconds. But Iron Fist as well. He is returning. And yes, that actor is returning as well. I know nobody liked Iron Fist, including me. But it's cool to see him back. I won't be emotional with him, but I was definitely emotional seeing Luke Cage back in the not just Marvel but MCU proper, man. Representation matters, and that just hit home to me. Yes, I cried. I cried. Hey, it is what it is. But we got that cool little moment. But he tells Jessica, that he's back, and she's like, "Oh, are you done? Are you done with your work or whatnot?" He's like, "Yeah, they're done with me. I guess they found somebody else." And we flash to an airplane where Mr. Charles is sitting, and sitting right next to him, going wherever I don't know where they're heading, but sitting right next to him is none other than Daredevil, Bullseye. So he got himself a real assassin. He got a real weapon. Not to say Luke Cage isn't one. That is a beast. But you have a beast, another beast as well. So that was a good replacement. And so we get to the very end, and Matt is in prison. He walks past all of the task force who are also in prison. Cole, he winks and nods at him while everybody else looks at Matt in disdain. He sits in his cell as the cell door closes, and we fade to black on season 2 of Daredevil Born Again. Like I said, this wasn't the greatest season finale of all time, but it was. I thought it was really, really good. I was about to say great. I'm embellishing there, but it was really, really good. I liked where we're heading. Is set up so much more going into season 3, and it also kind of makes you question Spider-Man Brand New Day. Let's not forget, in Spider-Man, I'm just going by the trailer because of course I haven't seen the movie yet, but in the trailer we see that what's the Wilson Fisk's aide, the assistant mayor, she's now the mayor because she's giving Spider-Man the key to the city. So we already knew that. That was spoiled. So we knew that Wilson Fisk wasn't going to be the mayor at the end of this season. But a big portion of that trailer, Spider-Man is in jail and he's fighting the Hand in this prison. So is Spider-Man the one who's going to break out Matt Murdock in this prison? Because why else would the Hand be in that prison other than going after Daredevil? I mean, the Hand is Daredevil's nemesis. So it's a reason he's there. I don't know if the two are going to link up, if that's the reason he's there, but it fits. It fits. Now, I don't see where this is setting up Punisher One Last Kill, which comes out next week, because from what they were saying and what I read up on, that the end of this season of Born Again, it was supposed to lead right into Punisher One Last Kill. I'm pretty sure they found a way. I just didn't see where it connects, where Punisher will connect at the end of this. But we'll see next week. I'm excited for that. But like I said, this was awesome. This was awesome. Can't wait to see season 3. I'm really, really looking forward to it. As much as I was all right with this, going into this season. I was like, oh, okay, Daredevil's coming back. All right, cool. But now for season 3, I'm like, man, when is it? When is it? When is it? I want it. I want more. 8 episodes were not enough. I really, really enjoyed this season. I give Daredevil Born Again season 2 a letter grade of a B+. I thought it was really well done. This felt like a Daredevil comic, and I can't get mad at it. You know, a vast improvement of season one, and probably one of the better seasons of a Marvel MCU Disney Plus show. Um, I can't think of another one that's this good. Yeah, I enjoyed WandaVision. I enjoyed Hawkeye. All those was pretty good. You know, those were great, great even. I'm sorry, Loki season one, great. But it's something about it. Just felt number one. This is more grounded. Well, it's completely grounded, and it just felt right. You know, it just felt like this was part of the MCU, but stands out on his own and stands out well. And man, my hats go off to all who were involved with the making of season two. But that's my humble opinion. I would love to know yours. What did you think of Daredevil Born Again season two? Did you enjoy these 8 episodes of this season? Or are you looking forward to season 3? Let me know. Email the show, kbradiopodcast@gmail.com. You can also search for the show on all social media platforms. Just search for the KB Radio Network. Don't forget about YouTube. Subscribe to the KB Radio Network channel and like this video if you don't mind. Don't forget about the 5 stars, the reviews, and sharing this show if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you are currently listening to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. Everybody, thank you for joining me for this review of the season finale. And also thank you for all of you who have joined me all 2 months. It's all 8 weeks of reviewing Daredevil Born Again season 2. I had a good time with it. I had a good time talking to you. I had a good time watching it. I'm going to miss y'all, but we'll be back. We got season 3 on the horizon, and I can't wait. Until then, I want you all to know that I love you. Continue to love everyone, and until we speak again, you all be blessed.